All right, welcome back in Live Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Earlier in the day, some of you may have been asleep. It was so early in the morning, U.S. time. But this was one of the events of the day. We know President Trump making a swing through the Middle East. He stopped in Egypt. He stopped in Israel. In Israel, he addressed the Knesset. He met with Benjamin Netanyahu. He ultimately ended up only making a short few hours long trip on the ground there in Tel Aviv before he flew over to Egypt, where we saw this Middle East Peace Summit. Not only President Trump was there, but as you can see from the footage on your screen, world leaders from all over the globe meeting here. This was a high-profile meeting. Standing by right now is Dr. Alon Burstein. Alon, huge day. I know you were probably, like me, following just about every update possible out of both Israel and Egypt today. Let's start in Egypt. Did you make any observations about who was in Egypt and who wasn't?
It's good to see you, Austin. And yes, the peace conference in Egypt is really, such a big story. There's so much to talk about, but really one of the glaring things is the participants. This conference was organized by the United States and Egypt, and they issued the invitations. The series of people there make it one of the biggest and most noteworthy peace conferences about the Middle East. Anyone from the UN Secretary General, the leaders of virtually every Middle East country, from Jordan to Kuwait to Qatar, representatives from Saudi Arabia, looking at representatives from Iraq. There are also the leadership from Europe. We had the prime ministers of the United Kingdom, Italy, representatives from Greece, France. Everyone was there. Glaringly not there were the actual sides fighting in the war, Israel and Hamas. The conference organizers did invite Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas. They also issued an invitation to Iran, who did not participate, but they issued an invitation to Iran to participate. Israel and Hamas not invited. Now, Hamas, understandably, they theoretically are supposed to now be sidelined. The Palestinian Authority is supposed to be the Palestinian representative. But the fact that Israel was not invited has really made a lot of headlines. It's part of seemingly the ongoing trajectory. The United States has decided it is going to bring a deal with the Arab world and help give Israel a final fact. Throughout the day, I'll just say, when Trump arrived in Israel, he did organize a phone call between Netanyahu and President Sisi of Egypt. Israel was invited at the very last minute. Netanyahu initially said yes, then surprisingly said no, actually pulled back. There's all kinds of speculation. The three leading explanations are, number one, that Netanyahu was afraid that he would be forced to shake hands with the Palestinian Authority chairman and didn't want to do that. A second explanation, that he was afraid of coalition mix-up and that his coalition partners would be angry. The biggest and most likely explanation, the president of Turkey, Erdogan, who's one of the most distinguished people who signed on the document, threatened if Netanyahu comes, I don't come. There's even a report that his plane turned around in the middle, and then it was announced that Netanyahu would not come. So all that happening in this conference to end the war.
You know, we've been, over the past 2 years alone, you and I have had endless conversations about this war. And as we've looked at this live vantage point, we've seen blast after blast, week after week, quiet now, completely quiet. And today we, of course, saw the exchange of 20 living Israeli hostages coming out of Gaza, the Red Cross, transporting them in these vans. And we do know also, by the way, yeah, there's those familiar Red Cross trucks that we've seen not only during this hostage release, but previous hostage releases as well. It's usually the International Red Cross that gets the stuff done. We also have footage of the Palestinian prisoners themselves getting off of the bus in the West Bank. We saw this earlier today. Let's move to Gaza, though. The time right now in the enclave, Israel Standard Time, 12:45 in the morning, just about. Alon, the IDF has moved back to its initial withdrawal line, if you'll call it that. The Trump plan had this yellow line on it. That's where the IDF has moved back to. What have you been observing in the area that the IDF has withdrawn from in recent hours?
So one of the big questions as to what is going to happen next has been how are the following steps in Trump's plan supposed to be implemented? The plan started with the hostage exchange, and we had 20 live hostages released, and the return of nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners that were released. But then the plan talks about the complete disarming demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. It talks about the establishment of a technocratic government that Hamas has no part in, and also the gradual development of an international force that will take responsibility from the Israeli Defense Forces, the Israeli military. There's no explanation of how this is supposed to happen. And that's one of the things that is raising a lot of concerns with analysts that few people have asked your question. But what's happening in Gaza meanwhile? Because the Israeli military has pulled back and now controls 58% of the territory. Hamas has not disappeared. We now are on, between 2 to 3 days of the ceasefire has been declared. During that time, Hamas has deployed 7,000 armed officers throughout the Gaza Strip. They are starting to reassert their control in the Strip, and also to hunt down and punish who they consider to be collaborators with Israel. They've also appointed 5 new governors to administer the institutions in the Gaza Strip. And at the same time, they also yesterday announced to merchants in Gaza that they're going to reestablish the collection of taxes within a couple of days. So Hamas has not lost its military capability despite 2 years of fighting, and is starting to reestablish its economic infrastructure also. How is this supposed to then lead to Hamas disarming and demilitarization? There's no fighting between the sides right now. Everyone's focused on that fact, and understandably, and the hostages are coming back. Everyone's focused on that, understandably. But there's a lot of concerns among those of us who are still looking at Gaza saying, okay, but what happens next? There's a ceasefire right now, but we're not seeing a defeated Hamas waiting for the implementation of this plan. We're seeing Hamas rebuilding itself on the ground, and that's raising a lot of concerns.
One facet of this exchange, if you will, obviously 20 living Israeli hostages were swapped for just over 1,900 Palestinian prisoners, but there were also the bodies of hostages as well. Jennifer Griffin, Fox News correspondent, reporting this. Hamas has handed over 4 deceased hostages. 24 remain in Gaza. What are the implications of those 24 remaining in Gaza, Alon?
So that's another side that really went under the radar today. And I'll say again, understandably to some extent. But what we have here is, first of all, a gross violation of the agreement. Trump's agreement says that all hostages, living and dead, will be returned in one phase. So that was supposed to be today, in exchange for a set amount of Palestinian prisoners and the bodies of Palestinians that are held by Israel. Now, there was no doubt that not all the remains of hostages were going to be returned. Hamas had said it in advance, and it is not sure where the remains of between 8 and 10 hostages are. So theoretically, the most that could have been returned would have been 18 to 20 bodies of hostages that Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, were supposed to return, and that was supposed to be all in this one phase. Then all of a sudden today, as the entire world is focused on the live hostages coming back and the political processes that are occurring, all of a sudden Hamas announces we are only returning 4 bodies today. Big uproar in Israel, but this, despite it being a gross violation, has not led to the collapse of the deal. There is no backup mechanism. So what happens next? Is Hamas going to release these in stages? Are they just going to hold on to them and say we now want to renegotiate? We don't know. There was a mechanism put in place, and what was signed between the sides to locate the remains of other hostages. There's a mechanism, a joint committee supposed to be established. It'll include the United States, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and also Israel to try to figure out where the hostages that they don't know where their bodies are located. But Hamas never claimed that they don't know where these 24 are located. They said they don't know where 8 or 10 are located. So they're still holding on to at least 14 bodies. And right now, there's literally no talk about it. No one knows, is this now going to be negotiated again? Are they going to hand them over in stages? Or are they holding them on and are going to say, we now demand to renegotiate? Again, it's part of that thing that no one's looking at what's happening in Gaza meanwhile. Everyone's looking at the big picture. And understandably, everyone's focusing on these big events. But it seems like the story's not over. I saw you raising eyebrows. I'm pretty sure that was a bird that we saw.
I just wanted to be sure. That was interesting.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have my phone here, and if it was a rocket, it could have been a rocket that was fired, but chances are we would have seen alarm bells going off. I'll update you if there's anything with that, but I'm pretty sure that was a bird. I also caught that going across the screen there.
Right. Alon, a wealth of information when it comes to this story. A little bit of a shorter segment we have to do today. Alon, thank you for joining us. Alon Burstein is the host of the Israel-Palestine Report on YouTube. You can go give him a subscribe. Good to see you as always, Alon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.